We're showing an example right now of capped over worker brood and capped over drones. You'll see how the drones protrude out further than the workers. They're a little bit more round. These are drones all along the bottom bar, but there's some that are mixed in. Even though that is a worker-sized cell, the queen has, for whatever reason, laid a unfertilized egg here, and they've developed into drones.
Do the worker bees make the cap over that? They know which one's a drone egg and which one's a worker egg, or is it just the size of the bee?
Yeah. So the worker bees, the nurse bees that are feeding the larva, will know whether it's a drone or a worker or a queen, and when the house bees come in to cap it over, they'll put on the appropriate cap. Is there a difference between the caps here that appear darker than the caps here? It's both brood, but some's darker than the other. They will recycle some of the wax from this area and use that to cap over the brood. So in the center of a frame, it's typically darker. It gets lighter and lighter as it goes out to the sides and the corners. So as they recycle that wax, some of it appears to be a little darker, some of it's a lighter color. How do you tell the difference then between a drone cell and a supersedure cell? Supersedure cells are queen cells. There's swarm cells, there's supersedure cells, there's emergency cells. They're all developing queens. There's queen cups. Doesn't necessarily mean there's a queen in it. So which ones are these? Typically, the drone cells will be oriented horizontally, so they're sticking straight out, right? And a queen cell is going to be oriented vertically. So one way you can tell if it's a queen cell and there's a supersedure cell, it will be on the middle of the frame and it will be facing down. If it's a swarm cell, they typically build them along the bottom bars of the frame. Most of the answer to that comes with experience, just knowing what you're looking at. So you can tell that that's...
well, that's why I thought those were supersedure cells, because they're at an angle.
Those are pretty much straight out.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody can see what we're talking about? So if the frame's hanging as it is in a hive, those are poking straight out. They're not oriented any differently than the worker cells are.
Okay.
Yeah. Now along the bottom bar, they distort the shape of them, so they can be, some of them can be kind of going down or angled different directions. So sometimes it can be confusing. If there's a queen cell in there, does it mean they're getting ready to swarm? So a supersedure cell isn't necessarily a reproductive cell. They're not going to increase the number of queens. They're not going to leave the colony and divide themselves. A supersedure cell means they're just replacing an older queen that's failing. A swarm cell means that they're going to leave with the old queen, and there will be a virgin queen left behind to carry on that colony after they're gone. So they're reproducing when they're making swarm cells. So you need to be able to identify the difference between a swarm cell and a supersedure cell. Capped over honey cells here are airtight and watertight. It's just straight wax. The capped over cells here have been mixed with some cocoon, maybe whatever material in there, some pollen or something, so it's porous. The pupa underneath there needs to breathe. So that's why it is a darker color in part.